Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series and its custom 4v4 action on the cards this afternoon. And I'm sorry to say that does not mean I've fixed the irritating stutter lag issues that have been rearing its ugly head at the latter stages of the bigger team games. I've done some very basic preliminary testing, the sort that a 3-year-old with no possible understanding of IT could do. And I have identified that when the stutter lag starts in the later stages of the big games, the core in the CPU that's handling Topcom does reach high 90s, near 100%, and that has to mean that it's CPU load. The temperature's fine. Everyone would probably be saying at this point, well, it's your processor then, Gar. That's the problem, right? Well, it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit coincidental that this is happening to lots of other people as well. So maybe a recent patch for FAF has somehow increased CPU load on these games. I don't know. It is a little bit strange. I'm going to try scrubbing the thermal paste, even though the temperature, as we said, seems to be fine, and reapplying, cleaning out the heatsink and everything. I've cleaned out pretty much everything else. And if that doesn't work, I may invest in a new processor. Maybe. But I won't tell the wife what the money is going towards. I can keep the secret if you can. Anyway, that's going to take at least 2 or 3 weeks, though, to sort out. And there's no way I'm holding off the bigger team games till then, because there just aren't enough quality ladder matches to go around. So I know you will forgive me and let it pass for now. And you'll also forgive me for the ridiculous length of this intro, which is now over. Let's get on with the game. And it's going to be a custom 4v4. As we said, it's going to go down on Tabular Rasa version 3. I'm ready. You guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So Tabular Rasa is one of those lovely maps that bucks the trend and agrees with logic in that this is Team 1 over here on the left-hand side of the map, and this is Team 2 over here on the right. And I should start by saying there's some weird naming convention going on here, where everyone seems to have tried to make Gar's life difficult by putting noob at the end of their name. Don't know why. It's very funny, apparently. And this one, Pappy Noob, is of course Pappy up here at the top, going first for Team 1. Hallie Orange opening first and second land, going Seraphim. Next up, team member number 1 to the south, we have Bems Noobs, but of course that's Bemble. He's going Aeon, opening first land in Ferrari Red. Team member number 3 to the south again, just to make my life difficult. It's a different kind of red and another Aeon. This time it's Burgundy Red. It's Unknown Noob. You will know him better as Unknown, and he is opening first land as well. And last but not least, down here right at the bottom, he's already on the move out towards the middle. Wasn't invited to the big noob naming joke. It's Noir. He said some very disparaging things about Unknown's mother, so this is how they punish him. He's on his way to the center, as we say, Elephantine Grey opening first land. So it's 3 Aeon and a Seraphim there for Team 1. Team 2 starting up here at the top. Already got a bomber coming out from Dumb Noob, but you will know him better as Congreve. I'm guessing he couldn't manage to find a way of saying Congreve Noob without it upsetting him, so he just changed it altogether. Going Fim, breast cancer awareness pink there, opening first air. And we're going to slow it right down. In fact, we'll do it in a sec. I really want to see what's happening with this bomb. He's going to fly right over the top of an engineer and head in towards the main base of Pappy. And the question is, what's he going to go for? Stops just outside, and looks like he's going in after the power grid. He's going to need at least 1 more bombing run. In fact, probably 2 if he wants to bag some kills there, but I doubt he's going to get it. Pappy immediately starts work on an anti-air T1 anti-air turret, so let's go back to the intros. I'm going to slow it down a little bit so the game doesn't progress too fast without us. Up front, next, it's Gentle Noob. You will know him better as Gently in Volvo Beige there, going Aeon and steaming towards the mass in the middle. He opened first land, going to go second air. Next up, we have Queer, formerly Queer Noob, bucking the trend there. He may well indeed be the focal point of this amusing naming convention going on in this one. And he has gone Spetsnaz Green and Seraphim opening first land. And last but not least, down here at the bottom, we have Nymph Noob, I'm guessing formerly Nymph, going Lurid Green, also going Seraphim, opening first land, going second air. So it's a reversal of races for Team 2 3 Seraphim, 1 Aeon. So tons of floaty, naughty in this game. Not a single Cybrin or UEF in sight. Should be interesting. Lots of preying and alien stuff going on. And that bomber for Congreve up at the top, now circling out away from the main base and might be looking to pick up an engineer kill here, which has just started scooping the mass, and that's the only engineer unit in the area for Pappy, which means Congreve might be able to scoop all of this mass up here to himself, and that will be a win on the ground there for his team. Very nicely done indeed, sir. Queer and Bemble in the middle, trying to scoop as much mass as they can, and no doubt will be trading blows in the process. Gently, for the meantime, has the run of the mass field in the upper causeway, and Unknown coming in to assist Bemble in shooing away Queer. Has already got an engineer down on the southern causeway building a T1 PD, and will no doubt, I'm sure, get to work on harvesting that mass after that. Meanwhile, right at the bottom, Noir got to the mass first and is scooping up the wrecks on Nymph's side of this little crevasse here, and he can now back up away from Nymph and scoop the mass as he goes. So that may well be a pretty significant win on the ground there for Team 1. So it looks reasonably even. We will of course check in with the mass totals after this initial opening phase to see which team has scored better, but certainly Noir is going to emerge from this having grabbed more mass but having lost a lot more hit points than Nymph, it would seem. Will Nymph stop to scoop any of this mass, or will he take a chance to open up and put as much damage down on Noir as possible? It seems the latter is the course of action that he's chosen. Back to the middle, meanwhile, Queer has lost about a good 6,000 hit points there or so, or 5,000, something in that region, and is now heading down towards the bottom causeway, potentially to take out that engineer, which is now finally going about its reclaim duties. Needs to be careful though of that eruptor that's sitting in the middle of the causeway there. 14 kills now for that T1 bomber from Congreve. I'm guessing that was the first one that we saw right out at the beginning of the game, and that's probably been mostly Bemble and Pappy which have been taking the brute force or the brunt of that attack. That bomb dropping woefully short. Bemble finally locks onto that bomber with an interceptor, and that will be the end of what has been a very successful run there. Congreve upgrading to Tech 2 on his commander, as is Queer, who's currently sitting in the pond there, but then he cancels it. That's interesting. Just as Bemble and Unknown join him in the water, you might be wondering why he did that. Well, it wouldn't take much for them to start building T1 torpedo launchers, and then Queer would have to cancel an evac, only having invested even more in that upgrade. So it would have been a waste of mass. Fires a couple of shots into that mass extractor belonging to Bemble and changed his mind to cap it. That does leave it on only 100 hit points or so. Noir now heading back onto land with some T1 backup. Nymph also has T1 in place as well, so a bit of a engagement kicking off for real now down here at the bottom. Aurora's going pop though almost as quickly as they emerge onto the beach. Remember that if a commander is going to survive the explosion of another commander, it needs at least 2,000 or 2,500 hit points if it's inside the inner blast radius. Nymph already going down into the red, and it's like Noir just doesn't want to play this game. Maybe it's because he wasn't invited to the naming party, but he doesn't go anywhere. Nymph trying to back up out of it, but boom, baby! Both of those guys are going to get ejected at 6 minutes 34 seconds, and that's going to leave a massive power vacuum right at the bottom of the map, which Unknown and Queer will now be rushing in to fill. It's a very interesting state of affairs to see those guys. Noir, if you go full Alu Akbar, tell me so I can send NGs in advance. It really did seem like, I don't know, maybe his mum called him for dinner or something, and he's like, yeah, I've got to go. just didn't seem like he wanted to play. So there they go, and suddenly this turns into a 3v3. Pappy Noob emerges from his hole with his ACU to engage Congreve, although his ACU is unupgraded, and Congreve has that T2 engineering suite with a couple of T2 point defenses already online. You could do with a couple of T1s, which is exactly what he's thinking. Immediately starts work on one there, but Pappy is in range with his ACU before it's completed, as well as with some Zooey, so it won't last long. There it goes. He might have the T2 engineering suite, but Pappy has an awful lot of T1 forces. More of a merge down here as they've circled around from the upper tier of the landmass there. Congreve, if he's wise, will be thinking about withdrawing, I'm sure. Nice overcharge there. Takes out about 5 units, though, as they're all clumped together. Congreve down to around 11,000 HP. Pappy on a similar level. Of course, that extra hit point buffer in place for Congreve from that Tech 2 engineering suite on board the upgraded commander. But Congreve, nonetheless, doesn't like the look of that. He's going to back up into the water. And credit where credit's due, he might have lost the initial reclaim on the ground there, but he has forced Congreve off into the water. And if we look at the mass totals, it does seem that there's about a 2.5k differential in favor of Team 2. So Team 2 definitely got the better of the reclaim early on. Those totals will immediately start to fluctuate now, of course, since we have engineers reclaiming those bases at the bottom. But it was definitely about a 2.5k lead from the initial start of the game in favor of Team 2. So well done to them. Unknown has established a little bit of a walled off section there on the bottom causeway. Meanwhile, Gently is trying to get some Tech 2 point defense online, as is Unknown and Bemble back here. Bemble also taking the opportunity to get an upgrade on the comm. Wouldn't be surprised if that's also the T2 engineering suite. You want to be building up your fortifications on your side of the river at this point on Tabular Rasa. And Pappy has actually followed Congreve across to his side of the water. He's actually starting work on some T1 point defense over here. Does manage to complete it, but I'm sure a quick overcharge will deal with that. At some point he reclaims the wall sections, but is taking a lot of unnecessary fire here. Maybe he's doing something else in the process, and then gets to work on reclaiming the PD. Congreve down to around just under 5,000 hit points, and this time it's Pappy who's going to back up into the water as he's taking fire from a T2 point defense station further over here. But would you look at the amount of Zooey spam that's heading off across the map towards Congreve? That could be a problem in and of itself for our pink fella up there at the top. Unknown dispatches an Alumnar off towards his commander, so we've got a bit of a commander drop on the cards here, or an evac or a relocation, whatever it's going to be, but we shall know shortly. And a Spectre that's heading off down here with swift wind coverage as well. So that ACU now on board, and indeed we do have the drop location down here at the bottom right hand corner, so he is making a play for Queer's base extension as it heads into Nymph Noob's old starting location. The swift winds provide excellent cover for the transport as it breaches into Team 2's territory. Engineers already getting to work on point defense as the ACU comes into touchdown. It picks a landing zone a little bit further north away from those point defenses and plonks it down next to the land factories, and he's going to go ahead and capture those, or at least one of them. That's going to give him a good basis to get set up here early on. He's got total air dominance in this part of the map, although we do have an Iosheva rolling in, so some ground-based flak moving in for Queer there. Another land factory captured by Unknown. The second one, or sorry, the third one down here is a Tech 2, so he's going to go ahead and reclaim that. But he has been successful in taking out a few of the engineers down here, and he's got another Spectre working on a mass point over here. So I think this could be a grab and potentially a hold on the ground unless Queer gets some reinforcements pretty soon. Now got an Oblivion turret that's about to go online. That completes without any major difficulties. Queer does manage to get 1 point defense online, but there's only 40 hit points left on it. And would you look at the amount of T1 rolling in from the west. But as long as Unknown can kill off the flak, the gunships can go to work on that unimpeded. Not prioritizing the flak at the moment, but there it finally goes. And he does lose both the T1 and the T2 point defense in that exchange. So Queer doing just enough to keep Unknown's defenses out of play. And he's rolling in with another pack of Zuis as we speak. Meanwhile, up at the center, there's a few exchanges going on between Gently and Bemble, both of which at Tech 2. Seems to be Blazes versus Obsidians. And Oblivion turrets, that's basically going to go worse, I think, for Gently in that exchange. Back down here to the bottom right-hand corner. Unknown still fending off Zui attacks. And they're feeding in drips and drabs now from Queer from the north. Bemble takes this opportunity to BM Gently over his choice of unit for that incursion. Congreve hasn't faced any major attack, major Zui push from Pappy. Pappy seems content to sit back and eco for the time being. Unknown way out ahead though in mass totals in this one. 83 mass generated mass per tick in this one. Drops down to 77 temporarily. Looks like he might have lost a mass point there, but looking pretty comfortable nonetheless. Team 2 overall though in the lead, 27k to 225 to 206 there in generated eco in favor of Team 2. Mass totals fluctuating all the time though, and now the Spectres for Unknown going to work on Zuis, which are actually retreating there for Queer back into the main base. And then they've got very upset with a Blade of Grass. Didn't like the way it was looking at them, not quite certain what's going on there. TA for Life would be screaming UI lag at this point, I'm sure. Very, very unhappy with that particular patch of dirt. Unknown with a severe termite allergy. Queer tries to counter those Spectres with some interceptors, takes care of one of them and nearly grabs a second, but Unknown is quick to react with those swift winds that have been lurking down here, and he's looking pretty comfortable, I've got to say. Just got to get in now and set up and take advantage of all of the redundant mass points that are sitting down here. He's going to get some more factories online first. He's lost one of the two that he captured over here at the eastern edge, and Queer, living up to his name, he is now tac missiling Unknown, and would you look at the damage he's inflicted. 1, 2, 3, 4 mass points down, is now going after the T2 power grid of Unknown. Has that bottlenecked him? Well, not yet, but he certainly won't want to lose any more of those. And he's hurriedly trying to get tactical missile defense online, and he's got one over here which diverts that missile just in time. But some very nice counter work there from Queer. Can't really contend with the commander drop down at the bottom right hand corner, so look at where else on the map you can hurt your opponent while his attention is diverted. So very well played indeed, and that's actually allowed Congreve to take the top spot on generated eco. 91 mass per tick at the moment for him. Pappy producing a whopping 15k power would suggest to me that he might be thinking about air production. Well, not as yet. He is at Tech 3 and starting to produce Othams. Perhaps he just overproduced. But Unknown rolling into the main base now with both Spectres and some T1 ground forces as well. Has taken down one of the two Tech 2 P-Gens and another one under attack as well. And this really might hurt Queer, who's already pretty low on power, and that does cap him. You can see that dropping down now about minus 200 net on current expenditure. Will have to adjust or get some other power plants up and running as quickly as possible. And Congreve has actually pulled his ACU down here to assist Queer with the defense of the main base. Quick T1 radar goes up, as well as some T1 anti-air and a Tech 2 PD as well. And Gently also turning up with a couple of sniper bots, so he's transitioned to Tech 3. So nice teamwork here from Team 2, trying to alleviate the pressure that has been pretty unrelenting from Unknown. And would you look at all the core mass down here, that's been taken out as well. So Queer doing a fantastic job with that ACU. 12 kills on board. Most of those, I'm sure, will be mass points. That TAC missile launcher definitely paying for itself. Scout planes going out for Pappy, heading over towards Congreve's base, and Unknown getting to work on some defenses now in a more serious fashion. We've got wall sections going up, T2 shield gen about to go online, and several Oblivion turrets now in place as well. Needs to plug the gap on this side of things. Definitely seems like a favored approach now for Queer to head around the mountainous pass around here and attack from the west. He is countering with Spectres, but Queer wisely packing Ioshivas in the mix. That flak more than enough to deal with those gunships. Gunships that lurk elsewhere, that aren't currently engaged against those ground forces, are now under threat from Congreve's interceptors. And I think the Swift Winds that we saw earlier from Unknown have been destroyed, and he hasn't since managed to replace them. And it's slow going on the mass extractors as well. It's going straight for T2s back here, rebuilding down there at the bottom. Congreve now way out in front, 127 mass per tick. It's actually Pappy who's in second on 111, then Unknown on 110. But Queer has taken a battering with all of this, and he's way down, short stacking on just 73. And that's the toll that this incursion has taken on him. Relentlessly trying to oust Unknown from this corner of the map, just hasn't had a chance to eco. Now we're seeing disruptors from Gently going after the shield gens in that forward base from Bemble. Bemble's looking reasonably solid generally at that forward position, but he definitely doesn't want to lose all of that shield coverage. Sniper bots in place are firing back at those absolvers. Nice to see those disruptors in play, though. You don't often see a lot of that. And Unknown now rolling away from the base out here towards the other mass points in the bottom right-hand corner. And the next wave, actually, instead of going after the base, feels it can get more done by moving out towards the river and countering reinforcements. But there is the push that we've been waiting for from Pappy up at the top right-hand corner. Lots of Zuis and a handful of Othams rolling in, and suddenly Congreve's base looking very exposed indeed. And if he loses the T3 power plant, the resulting explosion will take out an awful lot. He's going to lose all the T1 PDs, which are currently working against, and he also loses some T2s and a T2 power generator as well. What's that done to his power gen? Well, he's okay for the moment, plus 772 on current expenditure, but there's still Zui's in here, and he's going to lose another one. Will he lose a fourth power generator? Definitely won't want to, and I think he's going to. And there it goes, and that has bottlenecked him on power, so very nice work indeed here from Pappy. What he really wants to do is get in amongst the core mass at the back. These are all Tech 3 mass extractors, but I think he's going to run out of units before he can get anywhere close to that. Just needed a handful or more units, and he could have done some real damage there to Congreve. But as it stands, Congreve holds on to one badly damaged Tech 2 P-Gen and all of his mass extractors, and he's still out in front on 136, so he gets away with it a little bit there, and now it's Unknown who is under pressure. Where is his HCU in all this? Well, his HCU has evac'd completely. He doesn't like the look of what was coming, so he's headed back to the bottom left-hand corner, and that is a lot of Zoos rolling in there for Queer. That forward front line has been annihilated. Shield gen down, and all of the point defense it was protecting is down. We do, however, have one Harbinger that's turned up for Unknown, and that vastly outweighs, well, just about anything that's coming this way, with the exception of Congreve's commander. Currently that waypoint set for just the other side of the wall section to make sure Queer can win this fight. He can actually really help by reclaiming some of the wall sections that's stifling his teammates' movement there. Build capacity for Unknown, evacing to safer territory, although is likely to run headfirst into another patrol further out to the west if he's not careful. Meanwhile, Gently has backed up off the front line and is setting up shop just the other side of the river, taking a little bit of long-range fire from an Absolver and some sniper bots and a Serenity as well, but that's a lot of Harbingers that could be heading in towards that pack. We'll tune in on that again in just a second as we head back to the bottom right-hand corner and see this hero Harbinger that's just tearing through this horde of Zoos, now up to 42 kills, all by his lonesome. Swift winds coming in once again there for Unknown to provide air coverage for the Lone Spectre that's going to work on the Zoos to helping ousting Queer's presence in that bottom right hand corner. Dumb Noob or Congreve looks like he's actually withdrawing, and I'm wondering if that's anything to do with the next attack that seems to be amassing for Pappy, and this really could deal some damage. We do have some higher ranked engineers in the base now, and they're immediately starting work on some more serious defenses for Congreve. But we do have a lot more Othams, I think, in the mix this time. Head back to that again in just a moment. Gently has torn through that forward group of units of Bembles. What's left has now retreated to the shield gens further back here. Queer takes the opportunity to swipe at a few engineers belonging to Unknown, and still that Harbinger's going. What's he up to? 90 kills now. A fully 5-star Harbinger, and as long as Unknown keeps moving, of course that's absorbing an awful lot of APM, that micro, but he should be able to kill off all of these Zoos without any major difficulties. And Congreve doesn't really know what he's up to. He's heading back again towards that bottom right-hand corner. He knows he's not going to get back to base in time, as the attack is already underway. Pappy steamrollering through the defenses that have only just been completed, and it looks like he might lose those recently reconstructed power generators once again. There goes the Tech 2. And of course, of vital importance, he can kill off the P-Gen to go straight after the other mass points. The mass points that he missed on the previous attack. He will manage to bag the Tech 3 reactor, but Congreve takes a transport and airdrops in at the crucial time. Needs to get overcharging immediately. He's absorbing power from his teammates. Fortunately, they're overproducing and allowing him the opportunity to overcharge. And once again, he will hold on to the majority of his mass-producing structures in the main base. Has lost one Tech 3. Will he lose another? No, he won't. It'll survive on 350 hit points, and of that, he will be very thankful indeed. But it's certainly hamstrung him. He's down to 105 mass per tick. Unknown, meanwhile, on 263. Of course, he's operating off 2 base and might actually be back in charge of a third again shortly, as that hero Harbinger is still going. 109 kills. What a wonderful sight. So far, racked up more kills than the average experimental that materializes in a SOCOM game. Great to see. And Bemble amassing a hardy looking group of ASFs in the center of the field there. Congreve is going to be tied up for a while now, repairing his base. Once again, power grid just crippled, and he's definitely fallen behind. He's actually gone sub 100 in generated mass, so he has taken a proverbial kicking while he's been out of town helping Queer down at the bottom. Pappy took advantage. So Team 1 looking pretty comfortable here at the 26-minute mark. Team 2 have some ways to go if they're going to reassert themselves in this game. Not looking good so far if you're a fan of any of these guys on Team 2. Stutter lag just starting to materialize now as number of units increases dramatically in this game. Can't remember if we mentioned game quality, incidentally, at 97%. That is phenomenally high. Don't often get to that level of balance in these kinds of games. And that hero Harbinger, having killed everything down at the bottom right hand corner, is now advancing. He's going to get inside the Anathema, or the Athena, and kill it off, and is now going to work on the Suthanus, which are waiting further back. However, he is taking fire from the 2 point defenses that have been left by Congreve. A little bit of micro in play to try and avoid the counterfire down into the red. No! Run, little Harbinger. You are too important. 1,000 hit points remains and 127 kills, and still that Harbinger is going. We're upgrading his gun. And he substituted the TAC missile launcher on board the commander for a resourcing option, the Rasa, and then the advanced Rasa. Those wall sections we saw earlier still coming into play. And again, another mass Zooey push from Queer. It's just feeding this Harbinger. As long as Unknown keeps it moving, it's going to be saved. It's up to 137 kills. This is just ridiculous now. I think we might be approaching the highest amount of kills for a Tech 3 ground unit, mobile unit that we've seen in a game that's been featured here at Guilecast. Gently withdrawing slightly after restore a push from Bemble. Definitely needs to get more flak online, which is what he's doing. Those ascendants rolling off that forward land factory, and in comes Bemble with a GC. So we have approached the experimental phase now of the game. Late game in full swing. And that hero Harbinger, it's like American Sniper. He's got buddies now that have turned up to follow his lead. That is legend right there. 152 kills. Deadliest Harbinger in Aeon history. Probably isn't, I'm sure. There's going to be other ones out there, but having a bit of a chat. In local chat. And some horrible micro there from Bemble. Absolutely horrible. He says, I was busy with my girlfriend. Excuses, excuses. Some reason had his back presented to Gently's Harbingers for a long time, and that's what's happening. That's got to annoy Unknown, because I'm pretty certain that was actually Unknown's GC that was traded over. Tell your girlfriend to go have a Coke and a smile, Bemble. This is Supcom time right now. Gently's Harbingers under fire from those Restorers. But those static flak, the Mars, coupled with the Ascendants, we've also got a Transcender there as well, so he can't hang about on that side of things. Needs to collapse the shield gen and take out the Ascendant in there. Go to work on the Harbingers unimpeded. But Queer now getting into the experimental game, goes to work on an Ithota, which is heading to the bottom right-hand corner. And could we finally see the destruction of that hero Harbinger? Have we lost it already? I think we might have lost it. I can't see him. No, there he is, 152, but the future doesn't look bright. It doesn't look orange. Oh dear. What a travesty. An Unknown by Epic Harb. Yes, indeed. So we are well and truly into the experimental phase now as Congreve completes an Ithota and is heading out towards Pappy's main base. And Pappy has been pretty busy funneling stuff over here towards Gently's front line, which he's managed to destroy mostly, although those Othams now going to get taken out by a GC. But as a result, doesn't have an awful lot left to defend his main base with. Congreve, who's recovered his eco somewhat, still short stacking on 143. But Team 2 really are going mass experimental now. Seem to be popping up all over the place. Another GC under construction there for Gently. Another Ithota under construction there for Queer. Congreve's holding off for the moment on getting involved in any more. A little bit of ASF action happening up here at the top of the map, of Benbel has the advantage in numbers against Congreve. It's a lot of Othams, though, that Pappy's got up front, and he's presenting a nice straight face towards that experimental. This could be close. We'll check in on Vet as we go back in just a moment, as we go back to the middle and see Gently rolling on towards Bembel's front line now with a Colossus. And we have a Nuke launcher online back here for Unknown, and another GC as well. That Nuke about 50% complete, so this game really heating up now. Congreve trying to get the wreck of that experimental inside the shield. I think he's done enough. The Ion Storm now is going to activate right next to those two Tech 2 power generators. Of course, it's all pretty random. There are lots of other targets for it to focus on. take a look again in just a second as we go back to the middle. That GC now has reached Bemble's forward position with lots of Harbinger support as well, and is absolutely wiping it from the face of the Earth, or indeed whatever planet this is. Gently taking the opportunity to taunt in German. Always the best taunts. That Ithota that wiped out that epic Harb and the rest of those forces down in the bottom right hand corner has hung a left, or rather is turned towards the west, hung its right, and is going now straight for Unknown's expansion down here. Unknown producing mercies in an attempt to deal with it. His ACU down here at the bottom right could be vulnerable to a quick torpedo bomber rush, but no one on Team 2 has invested that heavily in air production. A nice drop from Unknown, dropped 2 Harbingers at the back of Congreve's base, nearly bagged a Tech 3 mass extractor kill, but Congreve was quick to react with the ACU, gets in there and overcharges them. And now the Ithota breaching into the main base. And of course the problem is with the Mercies against the Ithotas have their own onboard flak, and in this case also have a couple of Arshivas in tow as well, so it's going to be very difficult for these guided missiles to actually connect with the Ithota. And in fact they're positioning themselves very well indeed for the approach. And the first set of Mercies don't activate at all. They get shot down before they're in position to do so. Now all of these Tech 3 mass extractors are under threat. And only one of the next batch of Mercies manage to activate. Do have Harbingers and that GC that was under construction up here, heading south now to try and counter this Ithota. We've got another GC that's been completed down here as well. But would you look at the amount of experimentals that are being produced now from Team 2, gently rolling in towards Bemble's base. Bemble trying to get banks of Oblivion turrets online, but it's too little too late. Queer rolling in with his Ithota. And another one further back as well, and he's just building rows and rows of them now. Another one completed in the main base. Relentless Ithota spam. More being produced up here from Congreve. This Ithota might actually reach the main base. There are quite a few Oblivion turrets online there for Bemble. Bemble actually withdrawing his ACU away from the base. The shield is down, so he's going to lose at least one Tech 3 power plant, I think. Might potentially lose 2. There goes the second. Partially damaged by the explosion from the first, and Bemble's losing huge quantities of infrastructure here. Loads and loads of engineers going pop with each blast from those massive arm cannons. Pappy turns up with an Ithota of his own. They should manage to kill. He might as well stay in there and let the Ion Storm. I guess he wants to stay away from the engineers so they can't do the quick reclaim exploit. Unknown turns up with a GC from the south, but gently coming in with 2 from the north. In any way but gently. Pappy has withdrawn, but goodness me, we missed a nuke. So the nuke we saw building down here for Unknown, we still don't have that warning ping. I led to understand it's been a problem with a recent patch and will be reinstituted for observers in replays at the next patch. But that is annihilated Gently's main base, and that will give Team 1 something to cheer about, which they desperately need, because suddenly this game has collapsed for them in the last 10 minutes or so. Bemble running for his life as Gently was pursuing him with a Colossus, taking huge amounts of fire from the base defenses of Bemble, and of course Pappy's Ethota standing guard in the middle of the main base, but yet more experimentals still rolling in from Queer. The lead one might succumb to Unknown's defending Colossus. It's going to be close as the second one rolls in and opens up on Unknown's GC. Going to be very close indeed. I think it might survive, you know, both into the reds. And indeed it does, with about 11,400 hit points. It's now free to go to work on the main base, and Unknown has lost the strategic missile launcher and the Tech 3 power plant that was feeding it, so no more nukes for the time being out from Team 1. Lots of scout planes amassing up at the river at the top, outside the front of Congreve's base. But Pappy not in a position to launch any kind of attack at the moment. This will be a bit of defensive intel gathering, making sure there isn't anything that's going to be coming his way. Congreve does have an experimental that's lying in wait. But yet more Ethotas online, and yet more under construction there for Queer, who's basically sole purpose in life at the moment is to produce Ethotas and send them out towards Unknown. Unknown, who has been such a stalwart throughout this game for Team 1, has just taken an absolute butt kicking. Hasn't been able to contend with the Ethota spam, just about keeping up with things for the time being. There goes that lead one. It's kept out of the other power producing structures further back. The one in the rear engaging some of Pappy's siege tanks, which try to get in behind it, stay away from those forward mounted weapons. But I'm pretty sure that's going to survive and remain in very good shape indeed. So yet more problems down at the bottom of the map for Unknown. Got a GC who's badly damaged on around 14,000, 15,000 hit points. Just can't afford to send it in towards Queer. There are too many experimentals heading out of his base. Wouldn't last a second. Gently, meanwhile, rebuilding. First order of business for him was a strategic missile defense. Don't have to worry too much about it now. There won't be any more nukes coming out from Unknown for the time being. Take a look at mass killed, though. Almost 100,000 mass killed advantage for Team 2. They've been massively more efficient. 549 versus 450. Team 1 has about a 55k advantage or so in mass reclaimed in total, but that can be a very misleading figure at this stage when you're talking about structures that your team has previously owned being recycled. Mass getting counted twice, essentially. And then there was a lull in activity. Goodness me, it's been all go for about the last 20 minutes. Gently getting territorial over the amount of reclaim on the field. And he's starting to get his core mass back up to Tech 3. We'd probably be a bit more efficient to get one completed and then move on to the other. All comes down to how much APM you can spare, though, of course. Lots of wrecks still to be taken advantage of. Unknown and Bemble scooping as much mass up as they can. Lots of engineers coming forward from Queer to try and get their hands on some of the wrecks that are pretty well situated, actually, for Team 1 to get their hands on it if they can. This is where they would start to wish they had access to some support commanders rather than mass T1 engineer spam. But 3 Ethotas in the middle for Queer, all engaging the same GC at the same time. Chunks, and then they switch fire to the weaker one. Going to take that out first, sensible decision, and then go back to the lead Colossus, which is already at 50%. There are a lot of siege tanks rolling in from Pappy, as well as another Ethota who's been doing pretty stellar work at keeping Bemble and Unknown in the picture in this game. Unknown's Colossus will go down, as will another Ethota for Queer, and as long as Pappy directs himself well, he should get the third as well. There's another one rolling in from the east. There it goes. So many ion storms. It's a very bad place indeed to not be wearing rubber shoes. Pappy's experimental bites the dust and is going to add yet more ionization to the local atmosphere. Mercies for Bemble rolling in. Are they going to trigger? Yes, they are. So they're going to take a chunk of HP off that Ethota. Last one doesn't make it as the anti-aircraft cannons finally retrain. Next batch of Othams return to base to help defend against another Ethota that's coming in now from Congreve. Generated eco is now the important statistic here, and you can see over 100 extra mass now rolling in to Team 2. That is a very significant advantage indeed. Bemble completes another experimental. You look at the mass field that's now emerging on the ground down here, and the amount of firepower that keeps amassing on this part of the map just means that it's proving very difficult for any of these players to get in here and harvest any of this reclaim. More T1 factories going up down here for Queer, and they're producing engineers, so a whole new set of facilities with the sole purpose of banking some of that mass for Queer. I like the decision-making process that's gone into that. Not a great micro there from Unknown. I don't know why he didn't stick around down here and stay on the lead Ethota. As a result, Queer's going to hold on to both of those two experimentals. Another GC completes and will head up the river there for Unknown. Goodness me, that took me by surprise though. Strap bombers in from Congreve. We heard them going off in the background, but I was too slow to react. Bemble taken out of the game at just before the 44-minute mark. So Congreve, having sat up here, with the exception of the occasional Ithota which has been sent out towards Pappy, has been largely quiet, and he's been slowly amassing a snipe attack and still has strap bombers on the field now. Engineers pouring out towards the mass field from Queer, who I'm pretty certain should scoop at least some of this. Unknown should probably think about taking a detour with the GC as soon as he's dealt with these two and going after the engineers. But more strats out from Congreve, heading across the map now towards Unknown. There go the two Ithotas, and he needs to get out and start killing off the engineers, but he also needs to figure out a way to repel these strap bombers, which are going to go straight after his resourcing options now. And this really will cripple Unknown. Doesn't want to lose those mass extractors. Pappy Noob sends out the well played. He's pretty certain that this is over. Yeah, lots of reclaim went towards Team 2. Queer's absolutely correct. Just look at the mass field, though. Lots of reclaim didn't make it into anybody's coffers, that's for certain. And Team 2 did a marvelous job to keep the flow of experimentals coming so that Unknown wasn't able to take advantage of all of that mass. Mass Tech 1 anti-air spam in the base, going up for Unknown. One well-placed bomb should take care of all of that, and the engineers that are building them as well. Absolutely no counter to this Tech 3 air pressure now from Congreve, who's pumping out more ASFs and strap bombers all the time. Unknown down to 177. Mass per tick. Pappy on 144. He has harvested a lot, though, over the course of this game. Unknown by far and away the leader on total eco. 575. Next highest is Queer on 467. But just couldn't utilize it. The combination of consistent experimental spam coming across the river from Queer, coupled with Bemble being pushed back by Gently. Just too much for them to contend with, and now the last few Othams in the center being pummeled by Harbingers from Gently, and that Ithota in the middle from Queer. Unknown out of the water, building T1 land factories, probably hoping to get some of that reclaim, but is gonna get his head blown off. He doesn't get back into the water quickly, and there he goes. Unknown is killed off in the last few seconds, and I think Pappy might be about to join him. He's on an upgrade, he's not moving anywhere, and Congreve is gonna roll over him with another strap bomb push. Boom, baby! GG's all round. 47 minutes of carnage and about 30 minutes of experimental carnage well, maybe not that long, maybe about 20, 25, but absolutely unreal the amount of experimentals in the game. Look at it! Just look at it! Madness. Absolute madness. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, guys. As always, more to come from me in the future, and I'll let you in a little secret. That's actually the second time I've cast that game, because I casted it yesterday and then went to check it before uploading it, and there was no sound. And I realised that my onboard sound recording software had the game sound muted, which was fun. But I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it just as much the second time round, and funnily enough managed to miss more the second time round. It's always the way. But anyway, more to come from me in the future. Don't forget, guys, you can support me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. But until next time, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.